Hello and welcome to the Powerboost meditation. Today, let us experiment with the theme from gross to subtle, moving from gross to subtle. There are two levels of existence. One is the gross and the other is the subtle. The grosser something is, the more limited it becomes. And the subtler something is, the more expansive it becomes. Just like a stone, it's gross, and a stone is limited. A stone can be there, staying at a place for years and years. It is limited. Versus air is subtler. And air is subtler, so it can move around. There are no limitations. The same way, if we see the body, the senses, the elements, they're all limited. And when we say in terms of our thinking, gross thinking is a thinking limited by whatever perception of the gross world that is being created through my senses. I'm just thinking about it. I see something, I think about it. I hear something, I think about it. So my thoughts are dependent on what I am perceiving through this physical instrument, the sense organs. And those thoughts are all limited. They are locked up in the story. Whatever stimuli I'm being exposed to, I then start to create a story around it, and then I live inside that story. That is the gross level of thinking. Now, spirituality really is a journey towards subtlety. Spirituality is really to identify, to appreciate the unlimited, to appreciate the subtle. The soul is subtle, the soul is invisible, cannot be experienced through the senses. So the soul is really beyond the senses. And in order to experience the soul and the dimension of the soul in a very natural way, that's why a subtler level of thinking is needed. In subtle thinking, I'm no longer just attached to whatever my sense organs are showing me. My mind is tuned in to the truth. My mind is tuned in to the higher reality. And this transition from gross to subtle happens the moment I realize that I'm holding on to the gross and I let it go. The moment I realize and I let it go. I realize and I let it go. Just like a rocket moves from the earth into the space. It's also moving from gross into the subtle. And at every step of its journey, it's renouncing, it is letting go some of the part of itself, so that that act of renouncing or letting go creates a forward thrust, and the rocket moves forward because of that. In the same way, the more I identify who I am not, I identify who does not or what does not belong to me, and then I realize it, I let it go. Realize it and let it go. And the more then I realize that this body, this instrument is not me, I let it go, I become bodiless. Then I realize that the old thought patterns around the body that are all rooted in insecurity, or all rooted in vice, one form or another. Uh, I realize that it's not my real nature. I let it go. So I become viceless. And when I realize that any identity that I'm, the traces of identity that I may be holding on to, the ego, I let it go, become egoless. So the more I let it out of the system, I'm moving from gross to the subtle. And this experience of moving in to the subtle, it just allows the soul to be in touch with that subtle, invisible reality that the soul is a part of, the soul belongs to. And when the soul has reached there, it is when all the gross has been turned off, it has faded away, then uh, after going beyond, it's easy to stay beyond. It's not just as I go beyond, but because I've moved beyond, all my support system lies in the world beyond. I can stay in this dimension beyond. And when then I come back into the physical world, it's more like I'm visiting the physical world. I'm visiting the gross, but I stay in the subtle. And so this is a beautiful journey of moving from gross into the subtle and then just staying there. And when the time is right, when an action needs to be performed, I come back into the gross. I express the subtle being, but with this realization that I'm just visiting. And then the experience of truth is very, very natural. So let us experiment for a few minutes as we sit comfortably, relax ourselves. We realize that there is this story that often gets played inside the mind. Could be one story or many, many stories that I have created in a reaction to whatever stimulus I'm getting through the sense organs. And the stories around the role that I'm playing or others are playing, I realize that they all belong to the gross dimension. It is gross, it is limited. And so I have the option to tune in, to move in to the subtle. The subtle is where the soul is. The subtle is where the silence is. And so, just like a rocket moves up into the space, letting go of its load, I realize that I may have unnecessarily burdened myself with the weight of many stories that are not important for me. They don't belong to me. I may have created those stories under illusion. As I move into the subtle, Let me start dropping all the stories around the role that I, the being, perform. And as I let go, let go, let go, I enter the subtle, I enter the dimension of silence. In this dimension, there are no thoughts around the story world. In this dimension, the soul is alive. The soul is a living presence. In this dimension, the divine is a living presence. In this dimension, mutual love and respect is alive. I've come into the subtle. In this subtle dimension, I begin to feel my true self. Beyond the heaviness of the drama, into the lightness of the soul, lightness of the divine. There's nothing else to think about. It's just a realm for me to be myself without needing any validations, without seeking any attainments or appreciations from the story world. I, the being of light, I belong here. In this dimension, I experience the presence of the divine. The divine naturally stays in the subtle. This mind only entertains the subtle. The more I spend time here, the more I experience inner freedom. Freedom from all limitations. Weightless, bodiless, viceless, and egoless. That's the dimension of the soul. That's who I am. And just absorbing the love of the divine, This love takes me into the depths of subtlety as I begin to emerge the subtlety of my truth as a being of light. Without needing anything else, completely content in this subtle dimension. I'm surrounded by this divine love. And as it is time for me to step back into the cross, I realize that I just visit. I visit the physical dimension. I stay in the subtle. Internally, I've moved into the subtle, and I express the subtle in my actions and in my thoughts. Om Shanti. Thank you.